This is Single Status. Hello, Single Status family. Welcome back to the show. I am so excited about the show today because we have Elizabeth Sabillon back, Beauty Marks podcast host, and we are going to talk about dating and early stage dating and, dating apps and stuff like that. So definitely don't miss out on this one. Listen to the whole episode. I think it's going to be really good. And hey, before we jump into it, I want to remind you to, if you don't already, follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Samantha Vigneault, Vigneau is my last name. And if you are on Apple and Spotify, if you could just take a moment to go to my page and leave a rating, 5-star rating would be wonderful. And then on Apple, you can actually scroll down and leave a review. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear your thoughts on the show and how everything's going. And yes, and if you listen on YouTube and like to watch it there, make sure to hit subscribe and like, comment, do all the things, and share with your single friends. Anyone who has that like single status, if they're checking that box and they're getting a mortgage, whatever, definitely send it to them because we cover everything outside of marriage. So it's just a good show with lots of tips and tricks for this season of life. Okay. All right. So let's jump into the episode. Elizabeth, welcome back to the Single Status podcast. I'm so happy to have you here.
Hi, Samantha. I'm so glad to be here. It has been a long-awaited, but also a great conversation to have with you because I feel like we're in very similar seasons right now.
Yes, and that's what I love about what we're going to talk about today because we are kind of in the same season of life where I have let people know like I'm back in the dating scene.
Available.
Yeah, I'm available. I'm back in the market. I was kind of like intentionally taking a break from dating for a minute. And Elizabeth has been open. I've been watching your podcast. You've been open about how you, for the first time ever, got onto the dating apps in February.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting.
Yeah. So, how has that been going? And what made you, because you weren't on the dating apps, you were single for a couple years.
Mm-hmm.
And so was it like, did you not want to be on the apps? And then did you change your mind? Or like, did you have something, because some people like really are kind of against dating apps or whatever.
Yeah.
Or was it like you just weren't ready? I guess, yeah. Like what made you feel compelled to, get on them for the first time?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think on the last episode that we did, we talked about kind of like how the journey of like finally being like healing and all of that. Like I definitely went through that season. And then I feel like this year I was like, I know that I need to get back out there, but I was kind of scared to do it.
Yeah.
I had met a lot of people in person and had made those connections, but everyone would always ask me about dating apps. And I was like, honestly, I haven't tried it. I would hear people's stories. I would see like TikToks about it, but never had the experience. And so it was funny in like my intentions for the year, it was like to get more out of my comfort zone in the dating space in particular. And through therapy, she was like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. So I made a challenge in February to like also the people that listen to the podcast that are single, which some girls did it, which was fun. And then that was something that I wanted to try out and see for myself because I had never done it. And I was like, okay, let me start somewhere. Mm-hmm. And it was a lot of like kind of like anxiety and like nerves. And I was like, because you hear all these things. And then my family is very traditional. They all met their person when they were kids or they were like in church very young. So it's very different. So it was like a whole family affair. We're out here like, they're like trying to convince me not to do it. And I'm like feeling stressed about it. And then I was like, I'm going to do it. So,
so your family didn't really want you to do it?
No, they were very... I love them. I love you, mom and dad. But how they met very young. They're from a different time. Yeah, they got married like 32 years ago. Yeah, very, very different. but they met through their families. Like they
Right.
grew up in the same neighborhood.
Okay.
So it was like, this doesn't feel safe. Like, you know,
Mhm.
and you hear those stories, right? Like what can
Right.
happen. But I think that I had to kind of just be like, okay, no, I'm going to try it, is just to see what's out there, to see how it
Yeah.
is. But if I'm honest with you, Samantha, it took me so long to publish my profile because I didn't
Wow.
even know what to put on it. I was
Yeah.
like, who do I want to be? What am I?
Right.
Like, how, and I even asked my family, like, okay, how do you guys see me? Because I want to make sure that I'm like showing up, you know, myself and not trying to put something
Right.
else out there.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I remember when I first started on a dating app. I think the first time I did it was probably a little over a year ago. And it was the opposite. Like my family was really excited because they
Okay,
just like living
nice.
through me, like vicariously through
Yes.
me. They're probably
Yes.
listening, like laughing, but I think for them it was like, oh my gosh, she's gonna be dating and she's gonna be on the apps and stuff. But it is just a whole different experience when you do it for the first time. There is a lot of like nerves that come up, and I remember just a lot of like quick things that I learned at first.
Like what?
So I remember the first date that I went on, I kind of got like too invested in it. Like it was like the first guy I met, the first guy I'm talking to. And it is stressful at first too.
Yeah.
I'll come back to that date, but it is stressful at first because all of a sudden, like you go from talking to no guys to like having all these
so
choices and all these profiles.
It's so overwhelming.
It
Then
is.
like you're asking the same questions and you're like, I'm going to be so honest. I made a notes app tab with like the questions that people most ask me so I can just copy and paste it. I know that sounds really bad, but it got so much. It just felt like I had to do a system. I'm like, I cannot keep up.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you what my hobbies are. Here's the things that I like.
Right.
Because it was like the same questions over and over. And like how you say, it's like, it is kind of like you don't know what to expect. And I don't know how you felt on your first date, but it was like I was so close to calling it off. Like,
oh, wow.
This person was driving from Tampa, which is like an hour and a half. And I was so close to being like, it's okay. You're good. Also, they were like, you know, but I didn't want to. And my sister's like, no, you're already committed. Just go for it.
Yes. Yes. So with the guy that I went out with first, just to finish that story, and then I want to hear more about your journey of the first few dates that you've been on. So yeah, I think I got like a little too invested at first. And you have never met this person. You've never seen them in person. You've never talked to them. So there's no reason to get yourself all like built up for this one person. But so I really have now like changed my mindset that, hey, I'm going into this and we're getting to know each other to see if we like each other as friends first. And then if we hit it off, like that's great. Then we'll continue.
Yeah.
And also it helps to not be like texting someone for a long time before you meet them in person.
Yes.
But I guess, okay, so I want to hear about, the first date like you went on, or any like stories that you have, you know, of dating experience, or what you learned overall. Like there's so much to talk about. So wherever you want to start.
I know. No, I love what you shared about like getting very invested. I feel like what I did do, I would say better, you know, than my previous experiences with like the idea of dating, was that I actually went into it calling it a hangout. I'm like, it's just a hangout. I feel like when I put a word date, it makes
it you get all nervous. Like, you don't know what to wear. You're like,
yeah. So I was like, I'm just going out with a hangout. I'm just gonna hang out with this guy. So I feel like I downplayed him to be able to like not get so excited about it and just be like, I'm going to show myself. I'm going to have fun. Like, you know, and I feel like that helped me because honestly, personally, all the first dates that I've had so far have been really fun, have been good. Like I haven't had a bad first date. The second one, you know, those are the ones. But I feel like the first date I remember, so it was kind of like, okay, this person had been talking through the apps, and then we transitioned over to text message probably like 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, because a lot of my friends that were on the apps, which again, I'm very new to the apps, but something that I learned as a tip, it's like you want to get off the apps, but also the intention is to go on a date. Like, or communicate. Quickly. Yeah, because if not, you're literally going to be pen pals. And so there was a few guys that were like literally writing me paragraphs on like the apps, and I'm like,
I don't like that.
No, I was like, this
Yeah.
is just too much. Like, I feel like I'd rather talk to you in person. And
Yes.
ultimately, like, there was this guy even that was like, oh, I'm moving there. I'm moving to Orlando in June. This was like in February. I'm like, why are we talking? Like, I'm so confused. Like, I'm not trying to like have a relation. You know, it was just, I think then for me, I feel like when it automatically goes, at least like within a week or two, it's kind of like, okay, let's kind of see how it goes now in person. And initiate that, that they do. Or if not, you can be like, hey, like, I've really enjoyed our conversation. Would love to see how this would be in person and see their reaction of like, oh yeah, okay, let's plan something.
Yes.
Because I feel like that was the hardest part for me. And then the second biggest tip that one of my friends told me that really changed it. She's like, once you get on to texting, keep it short, but also be like, hey, can we get on a call to talk about details of the date.
Right.
And so once you get on a call, you kind of, okay, you have a voice, right? So it makes it like kind of less weird.
Okay.
And then you see how the conversation flows. Yeah. So then from there, it's kind of prepping you for the date.
Right.
So I don't know how it was for you, your prep for the first date from the apps. How did that go for you?
Yeah. So I really like the advice you're giving. I think the key is for all the guys listening to this, move off the app. If you're interested in someone, get on a call with them, FaceTime with them, call them, or say, hey, can we get to know each other like on a call or FaceTime, or just ask them on a date. Like, don't ask all these questions in the app and type paragraphs about your life and ask these deep questions. I've had guys opening up to me about their anxiety and their faith and they're pouring out their hearts and on the app. And I'm like, I don't want to know this about you over an app or even over text message. I want to get to know someone authentically in person or even on the phone or on a FaceTime. So I think that's really good advice. And I do think, like what your friend told you, it is good. It is okay for the woman to say, like, if the conversation is getting really deep or really heavy, because sometimes guys just don't know. Okay, guys are a little, they need a little help sometimes. So I think it's okay to say, hey, like, I would like to have these deeper conversations on a call, or I would like to have these deeper conversations in person. Yeah. And I think it's okay to be playful too. Like, okay, we've been talking for 2 weeks. Are you ever going to ask me on a date? Like, I'm okay with just being a little straight up and like, and then if he's being standoffish, that's when it's like, okay, I put something out there for you. You should be pursuing me now. Like, I'm telling you I'm interested. You should be pursuing me. Like, we don't want to be chasing him, but I think it is good to give a little push sometimes. Like, give them a little direction. Yeah.
And let them know you're interested too, because sometimes it's like maybe it's something that I have on my profile, which maybe is why I get the deeper conversations, because I value someone that's self-aware and has deeper
conversations. Maybe you should put over the phone or over coffee.
I know. So I was getting those like personal, like, what is your journey with Christ, which I love. You know, I'm like, let's talk about it.
But ask me in person. I want to talk about Jesus in person or over coffee.
Which I feel like that was great to know the basics, because for me, for example, like, everyone can say that they're a Christian, but that is one thing I do want to know before I go on a date with you. It's like, what does that look like for you? Because I got some interesting responses to that. I'm like, oh, okay.
You do get interesting responses.
Yeah. So like, there's questions I feel like that you have to kind of vet through before you meet them, because also you want to make sure that that's like a good connection for you. And also, like, be honest with yourself of like, if you're more casually dating or if you want a relationship, I feel like you see things differently. If you're just trying to have fun versus trying to, like, you know, see more potential partners, maybe you'll kind of scan through certain things or, you know, allow things.
Yeah, I think it's okay to be like pretty straight up at first. But when it comes to like the deeper stuff, it is good to, because I want to get to know if I'm really going to fall for someone and be with someone and just spend my life with someone. I would like to talk to them and get to know them in person or over the phone. But I get what you're saying. There are certain things that I don't want to waste my time either. Yes. You know, if we're completely on two different pages about, like, especially with faith, it is good to at least know, like, I am a believer, and, you know.
Or at least on their profile, they say Christian.
Yeah, it
I
could
don't know,
mean
like
anything.
basic. Yeah,
It
like
could mean anything.
definitely.
That they're not really practicing, that they could have just
Mhm.
been like born into a family but don't really believe that, or born into the religion but don't really believe it, you know, or practice it or whatever.
Yeah, there's been a few that have told me like, "Oh, I'm more like Seventh-day Adventist," or like, and I'm like, "Oh, that's a little different than Christian in my view."
Yes.
Or like, "Oh, well, I'm more spiritual, but I'm not like religious."
Don't believe in the Bible. I've gotten
Yeah,
that before.
or like I just believe I'm agnostic. I've gotten
Yeah.
a lot of that, which I'm like, they're like they believe in something,
Yeah.
you know, like a higher power, but not, and that's okay. You know,
Right.
it's just, but I know for me personally, those are things that I'm just not negotiating for
Right.
me because I see the value of that. And then when it comes to boundaries and stuff, that definitely plays out in those kind of relationships. So it's just interesting knowing like what your non-negotiables and versus things that you're like, okay, I'm good, you know?
Yes, it is good to know your non-negotiables. So speaking of that, what is like in a profile, when you see a profile, what is like a red flag or like a green flag for you?
I think it's, so this is my opinion. And you can let
When
me
you're
know.
examining a profile, listen up, guys.
These are the things that I look at. I personally look at if they have like a nice picture of their face where it's like they're showing their face, their smile, no sunglasses. I don't know what it is with sunglasses. I just feel like I'm like, you look a little sketch to me, like especially if it's in all the photos. I know, like
Right.
what's going on? Filters on photos. I didn't know that guys use filters.
You guys, please, can we stop here for a second? Because guys, why are you using filters? I understand. Okay, I don't think it's good for girls to like completely filter out their face either. But it's even weirder when guys do it.
Yes.
When they take all their wrinkles and all their
Smooth
zits and the smooth effect. It's
Yes.
just, and the bronze, the different color eyes and stuff.
Yes.
It's a total turn off. Sorry.
Absolutely.
I just had to.
No, please do. and honestly, like just the things that I've noticed. I'm like, oh no. Or like just different, I don't know. I feel like they're very serious in pictures. And so it doesn't show like the playful. It's like, okay, like kind of giving creep. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to filter out the words that come out my
You know
mouth.
what I've noticed too is these guys that, all these white guys out here that take these pictures on boats with their big fish.
Yes.
You guys, that's not cute. That's not attractive.
No.
My advice to you, all these guys out here, first of all,
We don't want to see the
we don't want to
fish.
see your big dead fish on your dating profile.
Or a dead deer. I saw it the
Or a
other
dead
day.
deer.
I'm like, oh my God, my
Just
heart.
put that you're a hunter or a fisher in your profile.
Literally, it was a bloody deer. Like, I couldn't sleep at night just looking at that. I'm like, why would you kill Bambi? Like, I get that you do that, but like, there's certain things that are just not. In my opinion, some guys put their profile like they're trying to find like a bestie of a guy because they're like, I love to golf, love sports, love this, love that. And I'm like, in my opinion, a lot of women don't do those things. They'll join you, but it's not like they're obsessed with that kind of thing. And so when a guy's like, must love golf and hunting and all these things, I'm like, I mean, I think we all can go with you, but like to love it at the extent that you do with your pictures, probably not.
That's a good point. I never thought about that.
Yeah. And maybe girls, like for me, I realized that. I'm like, okay, who am I making the profile for? Like it has to be stuff that guys relate to. So I can't be like, loves to shop, goes to get their nails done and their hair. Like I'm not looking for a bestie. Like I'm looking for like a guy, you know? So like I've put like things of like, okay, different shows. Like I love shows like Banter, love The Office, concerts, comedy shows, like stuff like that that's general, you know, versus saying like specific things of like my self-care routine, you know, which guys sometimes they do that. So I would say that. So the pictures, the fish, the hunting, the dog picture is so cute, but don't let it cover your face. Like I want to see your face. So like the dog is like here. And I'm like, okay, let's just get a picture of you.
And what about the guys that take a picture with all their friends and you don't know what guy it is? You don't know who they are.
It's like, where's Waldo? Like, those are hard. Like, I get it. You have friends, which is great. But at the same time, like, I want to see you. Like, I want to see the guys. So I feel like one picture with friends is good. But when multiple, same with when they have a picture with a girl. If they don't explain who that girl is, honestly, I get like is that your ex-girlfriend vibes? Because Is that why you have that picture there? Like as like me and my friend, but like it was your ex, you know?
That is such
My
a good
ex
point.
put his profile picture and just cropped me out. So that was an LOL moment. I was like, that's why that's like
Have
my
you
own.
ever got your ex on a dating app?
No, thank
that would
the
suck so
Lord.
bad. I
Would
always
you?
think about that.
Okay.
That's never happened to me, but I always think about that if people
Yeah.
end up, if their ex pops up when they
That
both
I would
get
block
back.
that thing real quick. I mean, I would screenshot it first just to send it to
Yeah.
my friends, but then I'll block it. Because you can do that. I have ran into a lot of people I know that I didn't know that were single. So that has been interesting. Or
Yeah.
people in our circles that I'm like, oh, so they're broken up.
Yeah.
So that has been interesting. And also like I feel like it is a vulnerable. I know we're all looking for connection, and like that's the new way to date is dating apps, and
Right.
people have successfully married off of it. But it's still interesting when other people see your stuff and you're like, I hope you don't judge me.
Oh my gosh, you know what the worst is? When you see one of your coworkers on it,
Oh
and then
my
you're at work and you're
God.
like, oh gosh, we just saw each other on
Oh my goodness.
on Bumble or something.
Has
That's happened to
anyone
me a couple
matched with
times.
you that that you're like, oh, I didn't know you like me like that?
I don't think that has ever happened to
Okay.
me. The closest thing that happened was a guy from high school. We
Okay.
matched and we actually went on a date.
Okay.
But I knew who he was, and he was like, I don't remember you, and it was kind of embarrassing. But I was like, how do you not remember me? No,
I know, you're like, excuse me.
Yeah, but I think, okay, moral of the story, guys, listen up. If you're on dating apps, or if you're thinking of being on dating apps, get your cousin, get your friend, get your
Yes.
mom, get your sister to review your profile.
Mm-hmm.
Because you need help. These guys,
100%.
you guys don't know how to take pictures and how to,
Yes.
I think a woman's touch is needed.
Yes.
If you want to attract a nice woman.
Yeah. See, like, ask your friends or
Girlfriends.
anybody, be like, hey, how does this look? And also, honestly, I think because guys don't really know how to take pictures, which is fine, they actually look better in person. I don't know if you've noticed that.
And it's actually, I kind of like it when guys are bad at like taking pictures and they don't have all these weird selfies and you know what I mean? Like it's attractive, but still have someone kind of help you along the way.
Yeah, personality. I feel like, and then also like asking questions that are more relative to like things that spark conversation versus like, how was your day? And I know it's kind of hard, but like looking at the profile and actually like being cautious or like being aware of what they say, I feel like helps to start those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course like making sure it goes back and forth.
So is there anything that a guy has done or a way that he has approached you that you really liked?
I definitely feel like when it comes to things that are not physical, I like that. So like the things of like, oh, I like that you're self-aware. Like, is there something that you're reading? Because I wrote something like that. Or
that's a good one.
What's the best place you've traveled to? Because I said that I like traveling. So it's like certain questions like that are more like to start a conversation have been for me like a good connection.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
I like what you said about, I do really like when guys ask me about, yes, what are you reading?
Mm-hmm.
Or what do you do for work? Or,
mm-hmm.
What are your hobbies?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I think that brings up a really good point, what you said. And I guess to pivot into, have you had any, bad dating experiences so far, or any that maybe weren't bad, but just kind of like funny situations that you've run into so far?
Yeah. So even though I have been dating just this year, so I'm not an expert, but I've had good first dates. But I would say for the second date, because I was trying to like, because that's what everyone says, like you might be nervous. I remember there was this guy that was super introverted and I'm extroverted. I like talk and I ask questions, but I felt like I was like giving a lot of energy. So I'm like, okay, maybe like the second date will be like a little better. But no, like he was just didn't have a lot of social cues. And like, so I felt like I was carrying that date. And for me, I wanted to exit like so quickly, but I was like still trying to be respectful. So that was hard to like navigate that. Cause I feel like when the energy isn't there, you know what I mean? And I feel like we were on different pages because after that date, he like wanted to pursue something else. And I'm like, wait, were we on the same date? Because I didn't feel there was like connection.
What do you mean by
all.
something else? He wanted to was
like
pursuing
continue.
you more.
Yeah.
Oh, so he thought it went good.
Yeah, but I didn't get that vibe. So it was just like a little hard. And then the other one was funny because there was a lot of chemistry, like, and those are the ones you have to be careful with.
Yes.
100%. So I've dated like the very like quiet, very reserved, very respectful guys, which I like how I feel because it's very calm.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the other extreme of like charismatic, salesy, very like just on top, just very like on it. You know what I mean? Like, of like just like either compliments or like everything. And that can feel overwhelming, especially for me. Like I had to tell this person like, okay, like I'm just kind of like
persistent.
Yes, very persistent, very like texting, like the love bombing of texting, like good morning, good night, good night. And I just couldn't. I couldn't. Like it was just too much for me, especially in the dating stage.
Right.
I feel like that can be like love bombing. And I felt it. But with this person, I feel like a red flag was that he started telling me all his red flags. Like he literally was like, so a red flag is that I have no boundaries. A red flag is that I'm still figuring a lot of stuff out. A red flag is that I've never really been in a relationship. I've just been in situationships. And I'm just like, you're literally telling me everything. But the thing is, guys will tell you exactly who they are. We just don't listen. Like I've noticed that because every date that I've gone on, they tell me, like when I ask specific questions, like they'll tell you like what they're looking for, their experiences and everything. And I'm like, wow, like guys are really straight up. Like guys are honest.
Yeah.
It's just that we have to like pay attention, you know?
Right. Yeah, I think that's really good because it is a balance because we do want to get to know someone and it is good that guys are straightforward and everything and they are just it is what it is most of the time. But like my advice is always to don't go too into all of your baggage and your history on a first or second date with someone because you know, your past is your past and we can grow and evolve and change. And also we don't need to get that vulnerable with someone that we might not continue dating. Because I had the same situation happen where I went on a date with a guy who was attractive and, you know, he talked pretty much the whole day and it was all about his ex and all these weird details that you know why they didn't work out, like intimate details of why they didn't work out, like, and then he went into his you know issues that he was struggling with and his anxiety and his depression, like, you know, and that's okay, all these things, but I think you don't need to open up that can of worms on a first date. Like build, because someone that falls for you will, you know, want to know all those things about you later down the line. But at first it's just like too much to spill out to someone. I don't know. Do you agree with that?
No, 100%. I feel like when people talk just like an overwhelm or even future fake, like, you know, like when they talk about like, yeah, like, well, like, I'll cook for you, or like, yeah, in the future, like we can do this. Like, oh yeah, we'd love to travel with you there. Like, it's like, you just met me. Like, stop talking about like the future so much, or the past of like exes and all these things. And it's like, I don't want to know all of that. I remember this guy was like, am I sharing too much? And I was just like, maybe, because he was like telling me everything. And I'm like, in a way, like I already knew from that date. I'm like, yeah, this is not a guy that's serious, you know?
It's just overwhelming for people. So I think like our advice would be the first date should be fun and chill and talk to each other about like, what do you like doing for fun and where do you work and how's your family and you can talk about your faith and but you don't have to give your whole like raw testimony to someone on a first date if it's like a really you know, like you don't have to spill your heart out. It's just dating's fun and getting to know people and seeing what's out there, and then once you take things, you know, the third, fourth date, you can start having those more serious conversations.
Yeah. Like you're gathering data, like you're gathering information about people. Yeah. And saying that they are to you. So it's like, it doesn't have to be like kind of with pursuing it slow. I definitely feel I 100% agree with the slow burn now dating, because I feel like before what I'm naturally attracted to is like the high chemistry part. But I realize I'm like, you're so cute, but like when you talk, it's just like, no, like
Yeah.
I just know it's not gonna go anywhere. And I don't
Right.
know, that's maybe my misconceptions or like my stereotypes of certain guys, and I'm like, you're gonna break my heart. Like I can see, meaning like when they're a guy that it's like you're what you're used to going for,
Yeah.
and it's like you see the red flags though. So then
Yeah.
it's just like I should not pursue this, you know?
So
because
what do you do now to know, like, it seems like now you understand like your weaknesses, I guess it would be. So what do you do to date better or to not repeat the same mistakes of the past?
Well, this happened recently, which I was actually like, it felt like growth. So I actually, because of certain guys that I, had a first date with, then after the second date. So the first date for me was fun. Like all of them have been good. The second date though, I feel like it was just a lot. And then like that whole thing that you're like, they're texting you and then you have the apps. And I was like, so I had to take a break off the apps, like meaning like I had to manage the text because the apps,
there was a lot.
I was like, okay, you just gotta like vet them out. Like, okay, no. So I wrote the conversation, like instead of ghosting, because I personally feel like I don't want to ghost people. I can just have a cordial conversation, especially if like you connected, you had a good time, there was nothing like wrong. So to certain guys that I first went on a date with, then after the second date, I was like, hey, like there was the guy that I had like no connection with, but like he had other intentions. I was like, hey, like I don't see this going any further. It's been great getting to know you. But I, just kind of like we're done,
Yeah.
I was like, but I wish you all the best. And he took it super personal. And he's like, wow, abrupt, rude. Like I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, I think it's
so
kind that you took
confused.
the time to tell him.
Exactly. And I would love for someone to do that to me. And I have been ghosted. Like there was a guy I went on a date with. I thought it went really well. We went to have coffee. We hung out for like 2 hours. We were laughing. It was a great time. He never talked to me after that.
Wow.
So I realized, I'm like, there's something about the courtesy of just telling someone like, hey, like it was nice getting to know you, but this is not going anywhere, versus just like completely leaving, which is fine. Like I met him one time, like I'll be fine. But it was still like that whole thing of like, people do ghost in the dating space,
Right.
But I did see a TikTok that was like, okay, when you tell someone though, don't start naming all the things that you hate about them. Like you just met them one time.
Right.
So all you have to say is,
it's like
hey,
an job interview.
I know. It's like, by the way, your teeth were this. You're like, I didn't like your style. It's like, no, you don't have to like be rude. You can just say like, hey, it's been nice getting to know you. Thank you so much for your time and like all of that. But I just don't see this going any further. And I wish you all the best. And that's it.
I'm all for that.
But when you're asking about what I did differently, with the guy that had a lot of chemistry and was very charismatic, that was kind of what I would always go towards.
Yeah.
And I know how I felt. Like I felt it was just exciting, like on the date, it was super fun. And I'm like, no, this is not it. Like, I'm not at that stage in my life anymore. And I'm like, I know this is not going to go anywhere. So I cut that guy off and I told him the same thing. It's been nice getting to know you, whatever. And he was like, oh, like, man, you're breaking my heart. Like, I wish we can really like explore this. And I was like, yeah, I just don't see like certain values in align, certain things. And he's like, no, I respect that. And he's like, well, like, I'm open to being friends if you are. And it was like very respectful, and that was it. And I was very proud of myself, to be honest, because back in the day I would always be like just very nervous or shy, or like I didn't want to be that person, like to be like, no, because I was kind of scared of like how they would react. But I was very proud of myself to like,
that's a
kind
big
of
step.
Yeah, like to cut it off and not repeat the same pattern. So I remember when I came back from the date, I was telling my sisters about it, and they're like, oh my God, like absolutely not. Like absolutely not.
Wow.
And so I remember being like, I would say like the old me would go towards that, or like, like give it a little bit more time, like have fun, but it's like, no, like I listened to wise counsel, and I knew, and I felt it, and I was like, no, this is not it. And I was proud of myself for doing that.
Yes.
So I would say like having the accountability and like being open with people, I feel like is what I'm doing differently now, and being so honest with myself, and honestly listening to like what they say, and being like, Liz, he told you this, this, and this. So listen to him. You're not going to change him. He is grown. Like, and actually, like, is that a good fit for my life?
Right.
Versus before of trying to change or try to like give it a little bit more time, you know?
Right. That's so good. And that's big growth because I was in the same boat as you before, like I never would tell anyone, like invite anyone into my dating situation, like friends and wise
Yeah.
counsel, because I was like, I want what I want and I'm not
You're like,
going to
"I'm gonna do
listen to
it."
anyone.
Yeah.
And look how that turned out.
Yes,
The
you're
Single
like,
Status
heartbroken.
podcast. But
Yes.
so that is growth because I think when you tell someone,
Yeah.
you're less likely to repeat the same behavior. So I have been trying to do that too in dating. Is I've told, my close people, like, listen, I need you to know, like, I typically go for this, or I typically ignore red flags sometimes at first. So I need to be more like self-aware of that. And I'm going to literally take your advice now on who I'm dating, because I want my people, they know me best.
Yeah.
And I want them to, I trust them more than, because there's something going on in our bodies and our minds when we fall for someone. Like, it's literally like a chemical reaction happening. So it's really easy to kind of overlook things and to dive in head first when our logic would say, no, let's chill for a minute. So that's awesome. And that's growth. So we have a couple more minutes. So I wanted to end with a couple of questions. So, are there like any fears that ever come up now that you are, on the dating app scene? Like, I know you talk a lot about mental health on your podcast. So is there anything that has come up, and then how do you like deal with that?
I think that doing something new is always like scary, and especially because I had been kind of in my peaceful like little circle, like living life, was very different actually practically doing and seeing how I would react to things. It's like, if you say, for example, like, you're gonna never do something, but you've never been exposed to it, like, is that really like proving that you'll never do it? Until you're actually exposed to something, then you'll know how you react and everything. So I feel like it's brought up a lot of things just to see like where my boundaries are, kind of like how I communicate, how I see myself, because there has been times where I'm like, my body insecurities have come up of like, okay, like, do I have to explain that I'm like curvy, or like, will someone like me like how I am, you know what I mean? Or am I too much? Am I like, I don't want to come on too strong of like, oh, I have a podcast, I have this. And like, so trying to like navigate those thoughts within ourselves, because I feel like those things can come up. Same with, honestly, I posted about this a few weeks ago, but it's like losing myself. I think because I've like worked really hard on certain areas of like building a full life, of like having my hobbies, like my close friendships, my family. Like, I don't want to lose that. And in a way, I've never had a healthy relationship where I can continue being me and have a relationship. So it kind of is like navigating that like part of like the fear of, man, am I going to be able to do this? Like, or is this going to take from me? And I know it's part of like my own process and healing. But it's, those thoughts come up, of like, how is it going to look like? So I think like continuously going to therapy has helped me. So I have like my sessions with her, and she's like, okay, where are you at? What are you thinking? Because I think I've struggled with like not feeling enough in relationships, because I was always told that I should change this or that. And it was never enough, like no matter if I changed myself or I did certain things. So I feel like now dating, showing up as myself, I think is just reminding myself like I am enough as I am, and like I want to show up as myself, not changing later on, because imagine, it's like how exhausting that is, that you have to put on this facade to be liked, and then after they're like, oh, like, where's that version of you? It's like, no, I want to be like, this is who I am today, and like it's okay if I'm not your cup of tea, which I feel like is sometimes hard, to like navigate, because it's like you do have moments of like self-doubt and like insecurities that pop up in dating, but they're all like showing you closer of like the areas to continue to grow and to be better, So I feel like all my dating experiences so far have taught me things about myself that maybe if I wasn't dating, I wouldn't have known that part.
Right. Well, I just want to say I'm proud of you for sticking to your guns and learning from, what worked and what didn't work in the past. And because it is harder to wait on the right person.
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy for us to settle with the wrong person and to let our insecurities overtake us. And look, we've all been there, you know, or things that we struggle with or feeling like we're not enough. So then we settle with the wrong person. And like, God will send you someone that will love everything about you, and you don't have to change yourself. And it doesn't mean we're not learning and growing and evolving, but it just means that someone will love everything about you and you can be you know?
Definitely.
So, and it's harder to trust God in continuing with that process and waiting on the wrong person, because that typically can take a little longer, you know, when we're firm in who we are. And but you know, the payoff will be better. Like, there will be someone that you end up with that will make you so happy, and you'll be like, thank God that I waited on this person. I truly believe that, because I believe that if you desire marriage, like that is from God, especially if you're delighting yourself in the Lord and putting him first. That desire is there for a reason, because you're meant to, you know, he'll send you someone that will love everything about you.
Yeah. Like, and I know we talked about this a little bit about like being either like independent or like having your own thing figured out in dating.
Yeah.
I feel like that can be sometimes things that you're like, okay, should I like kind of put it down?
Yeah.
Like, should I be less of this? Like, how have you navigated that?
Yes, it is something. So in dating, I have realized with myself lately that because I am 31 now, I've been working for 10 years. I have my own house. I have this podcast now. I'm really involved in like ministry stuff. And I just feel like I've never felt this good in my life, like from a place of like joy and really walking in who God created me to be. So yeah, I sometimes get, I don't know if it's like an insecurity or if it's like this voice. We all have that voice in our head, that's saying like, oh, you're like too much for a guy, or you know, something like that. But I have just been like aware of that, and I know that it's like, no, I'm not listening to you. Like, the guy that God has for me will like love everything about me, because I am walking in who God created me to be. Like, I'm really feel like I'm walking in my identity. So I know that the right person will add to that, and will actually like compliment me and meet me where I am, and help me be even like better than I am today.
Like support all that you are, not like bring it down. That's like my fear too. That's why I'm like, is it possible?
Don't dim our light.
I know.
We don't need a light dimmer.
Actually, absolutely not. And that's the thing. It's like, I think because if you always had experiences that weren't good, it's just sometimes hard, like seeing it, you know. But it is like, for me, it's like when I see like the healthy relationships around me that do get married, and like my sister and like all these people that I see, that I'm like, okay, it's possible, you know? And then they remind you, and it's important to have people to remind you, like, this is how I see you. So like, this is the standard. And I remember with this certain red flags that I was telling my best friend, she's like, absolutely not. Liz, we've done this before. We are not going to go through this again. And I think it's just reminding ourselves of like, it's worth waiting. At this point, it's like better to wait than to marry someone just because of the desperation or the loneliness that can come up in dating. Because I don't know about you, but like also dating does bring up those things of like, man, how many dates do I have to go on to like find my person? I don't know if you have felt like that before.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'm like, you know, God's been sending me like, or he'll sometimes, I don't know if it's God sending me or if it's just guys coming my way, but sometimes I'm like, Lord, like send me one that I like really connect with or whatever. But it's really just a faith journey with anything. It's just, you know, putting our trust in God and surrendering to him. And you know, we're growing and building character and in this process a lot, and just like trusting him with our lives, like it's so important, and it's hard, you know.
You know, one thing that I would say has also changed my dating life is praying about it. I think that we think that God is not involved in the dating app stuff, but I literally have like, because of like also the fear of my parents, I'm like, Lord, if this is gonna take me to the end of my life going on this date, like make something happen that like, you know, it's not worth it. Like, I feel like I have always prayed before I go into a date, like, Lord, may you reveal things, may you show me, protect me, keep. And I'm telling you, that's why these guys tell me their whole life on the first date, is because I ask God to like reveal to me things and for me to see it, which before I wouldn't see it.
Yeah.
And so like God cares about your dating life, and God wants you to like for your dating to lead you closer to him too. Like,
right.
So if anything, I'm like, show me the areas, and these dates have all showed me areas within myself that I'm like, ooh, yeah, need to work on that, need to get better. And other areas that I'm like, man, God, that was fun, but like I want someone that like truly loves you and like that pushes me closer to you, not pulls me away.
Yes.
Or not that after I'm like, what the heck am I doing? You know? So it's like ultimately it's like God does want those things, and like we have to allow him even in the dating space.
Right. And I have noticed too, it's when you are dating and getting to know people as friends and not crossing the physical line, and we're praying and asking God to reveal things to us, it's so clear. He makes it so clear.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. Or he just had, like, they just disappear.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, Lord, is this person for me? And then they just disappear. And it's like, okay, I guess they're not. But I've noticed, like, in my past, when the physical line is crossed, immediately it's harder to hear what God is saying.
Yeah.
Because then it just clouds your judgment.
Yeah.
And those red flags, that's when you start ignoring them.
Yeah.
So yes, I think that's so good. It's inviting God into the dating situation, and he will make it so clear. He will show you every red flag, and people will just disappear, and it'll be easy on you. So
yeah, or your friends will tell you. They're like, absolutely not. We're not going there.
Yeah,
and God uses those people too. So.
Right. Yeah. So okay, one last thing since we're running out of time. I guess if you could give any like dating advice to anyone, like early stage dating on dating apps or anything, what would you like to say?
For me, I think it's freeing when you're able to show up as yourself in dating. I think that is the one thing that I have learned. It's like that someone will see and value you for you, and that you're not too much, or you're not, you don't have to change something about you in dating. I think it's literally like every date that you go on, think about it as like you're learning something new about yourself. Check in with yourself, how you're feeling, and remember that it's like ultimately this is all leading you to like the person that you'll be with. You know what I mean? And if you do it well and you involve God in it, like you will see such great memories that you'll have of like, when I did date, that was fun, because I have a lot of funny stories in that. But have community within dating, because that will help you stay sane, as you go. And wishing you the best.
That's good. Well, thank you, Elizabeth. It was just awesome having you on the show again. And I guess before we end, where can people find you? Because you have an awesome podcast. I love listening. So how can people find you?
Yeah, you can go on beautymarkspodcast.com for all Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and you can check out every Monday for a new episode. And you can follow me at Elizabeth Sabillon for more posts and just encouragement.
Cool. And I have a feeling you'll be back in the future because you're just great. So
thank you. You too. Thank you for having me. And I'm so excited to see all that you're doing. And like within the last time that we've met, like you just continue to encourage people in their single season. And I feel like people don't talk about it much, but it's like being single can be such a blessing if you steward it well.
Oh, thank you so much. And I had such a good time on the show today. And thanks again for coming in. And I'm excited to have you in the future. Okay, so before we end, I want to make sure we get in our affirmations. You guys know I like ending with affirmations. If you're new here, I really believe in the power of our words. So if you want to place your hand over your heart and repeat after me, I am not alone. I am loved and cherished by the Father, and I am exactly where I am supposed to be. Okay, guys, before we go, if you don't already, make sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Samantha Vigneault, Vigneault, and you can follow with follow along with everything that's going on with the show. On Instagram, I post a lot of, questions and polls and stuff. So definitely follow me there. And if you are on YouTube, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you get future episodes, and like, comment, share, do all the things. And on Apple and Spotify, if you could go to my page and if you could leave a rating, 5 stars would be amazing. That is how we kind of reach more people. So definitely go there and do that. I would so much appreciate it. And if you could write a review on Apple Podcasts, that would mean a lot to me. I love hearing your feedback. I love hearing what you thought about the show. So definitely do that. Okay, guys, I had such a good time with you today. Love you. See you next time.